Steel boots stamping midnight hour. Silent whispers disturb the tower. Echo hotel calls out the height, awakening souls from deepest night. Tyranny's grip like shadows tight, but voices rise where there is light. Freedom's drumbeat in the hall. Can't you hear the clarion call? Marching shadows, leaders fall. Night watch speaks to all who call. Echo holds the beacon bright.
Oh, look at that background, man. What?
Put the Christmas tree up yesterday.
Yeah, looks good.
Made the wife happy.
Yeah, dude, looks all festive and stuff, and that lighting's badass, man. It's still daylight out there. It's night here.
Yeah, and had some guys here doing some work at the house, and they just left, so worked out. Good timing.
Yeah, tell them to get the fuck out of there. You got shit to do.
I'm surprised I got it done this quick, bro. I put in a backup transfer switch.
For like solar?
For yeah, if the power goes out,
Like Zen? Yeah.
EMPs or any of that
Oh,
any
you
of
got
that.
that hooked up so you can have power after that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. That's badass. Badass. What's up, boys?
Hello, hello.
What's up, Brandon? How you doing, Nathan?
Hey.
Hey,
Good, Echo. How are you?
I'm good. I just got rid of these workers. I was just telling Nathan with the coming shenanigans that I see on the horizon, I put in some water filters and doing some other stuff around the house. I put in an electrical transfer box. So if we were to lose power for any length of time, just plug in the backup generator and fire it up. So luckily those guys got done and got them the hell out of there.
So do you have that in like a Faraday cage or protected somehow
I need to
from
do
EMP?
that. I need to do that. I've been racking my brains on how to do that. And I think what I'm going to do is buy one of those metal job boxes from Home Depot. And then they make that electrical Faraday tape, or it's like a sealer um, when you close the lid, and just put everything in there.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea for sure. Oh, did we lose you? Oh, he must have dipped out.
No, sorry, man. My son,
Oh.
he's asking me questions. Doesn't need to be on the podcast. So, Brandon,
Yeah.
what's going on, brother?
hi guys. Hello, hello.
How you been, man? It's been what? It's been a little over a year.
Since we started talking?
Yeah, yeah. The last time I looked on Rumble and the last podcast it said a year ago, so it's got to be a year and some change.
Oh, geez, wow.
Yeah, it's been some time, man. I think you had just released your 1.0 or somewhere around there when we talked last, and now you got your 2.0 and all this other stuff I noticed on your website you got going on, man. You're just moving right along.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. 1.0. Are we recording right now, by the way?
Yeah, yeah. And I made you co-host, so anything you want to share or record,
Okay, cool.
feel free.
Yeah, I don't remember when we last had our show. I don't remember what I talked about, but if it was around the 1.0 course, that was the summer of 2022, actually.
We found you early. I think you had only been on a couple of podcasts at that point, and we were your first state national podcast.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah, so that would have been did you guys book through my publicist at the time that I had?
No, no,
No, it
straight
was some.
straight to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, a few things have changed.
I bet.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, I got lawsuits going now. We got all sorts of craziness. We got our own license plates that we print up, diplomatic license plates. We've got I'll be working on designing my own passport book and passport card in 2025. I'm going to be opening up my own federal credit union in 2025. We've got probably 9 or so lawsuits going currently. 2 of them are actually in appeals cases. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on. 2.0 course is out. We've got tons and tons of experimental projects going on all over the place. So yeah, it's a pretty big operation now. I think at that time I was still trying to just figure out the basics, which I still do to this day. I mean, I still dig for the basics too, but now we're just so much farther than that, and we just have so many great things going on. So yeah, I think 2025 is going to be the year where I start winning some cases because I haven't won anything yet. It's been a long, difficult process to learn how to do all that stuff. I think we'll get a federal credit union established this year.
How many buddies? You said on the last, I think I'm on 11 or 12, and you had just talked about that, and I was like, damn, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so if you have 7 people, you can open up a federal credit union. And if you have a federal credit union, then you can fill out what's called an OC-10 agreement with the Federal Reserve, and you can get what's called Federal Reserve discount window access. So whenever you sign for a mortgage, what the banking or financial institution does with that promissory note that you sign is it takes that note to the window, the Federal Reserve discount window, and it writes what's called an application for notes, which is found in Title 12 of the United States Code, Section 412. Has the basic outline of the procedure on how that works. So basically, what they're doing is that when you sign that promissory note, you become the issuer. That's the technical term of that promissory note, and then they basically take that note and they use that note to fund the entire loan. So you basically fund all of your own loans, and it's the same thing with credit card transactions. Um, what people don't realize is if you look at the face of a Federal Reserve note, it has the word note on it, which is pretty self-evident, right? The word note means promissory note. So what a Federal Reserve note is it's basically a security, just like what you'd see on Wall Street or whatever. And it's a promissory note. It's an unconditional promise to pay between the corporation called the United States and the foreign corporation called the Federal Reserve Bank, right? So when you understand that Federal Reserve notes are promissory notes, and you understand that the mortgage documentation or credit card transactions are also promissory notes, the next question is, well, in law, are those different types of promissory notes valued differently, or do they operate differently because one is the Federal Reserve note and one is not? The answer is no. That's the most shocking thing. They have absolutely no difference at all whatsoever in law. So when you sign a promissory note for a mortgage, you are manufacturing cash. When you sign a credit card transaction and you're doing a credit card transaction, you're also manufacturing cash. So what's happening all day in this country and all over the world is everyone is manufacturing cash and then abandoning that cash. And when you understand how negotiable instruments work and you understand how securities work, there's an area of law called Uniform Commercial Code Article 3, which talks about negotiation. It talks about a lot of things, but it talks about negotiation. So the term negotiable, when it comes to negotiable instruments, which is promissory notes and bills. So there's 2 types of negotiable instrument. There's notes and there's bills, just to keep it really simple, right? So another shocking thing that really shocks people is the bills that you get are also cash. So bills are cash, notes are cash, credit card transactions are cash, and you can actually even look up I can show you this. This is pretty shocking. Pretty shocking and fun. Everything is pretty shocking these days, right? But if we go to my website here and I were to show you a file here, there's one thing that's pretty shocking. This is
That's awesome. Beach full of pickles.
yeah, this is
Where's
a
Waldo but with pickles?
yeah, yeah.
Love
I
it.
created this flow chart, right?
Oh, this is the flowchart I've been getting all the emails about.
This is one of them. I made two of them on two different subjects. This is the one on negotiable instruments, right? So if we look up UCC 3-104J, 3-104J, this is pretty shocking, right? Remember back in the day, we used to hear about these things called CDs or certificates of deposit, where those special bank accounts
Yeah.
where you could
Yep.
deposit in there and it would be like a savings account and you'd get like 6% interest on it, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, there's another definition of certificate of deposit, and it's an instrument containing an acknowledgement by a bank that a sum of money has been received by the bank, and it's a promise by the bank to repay that sum of money.
Mm.
A certificate of deposit is a note of the bank. So what happens is when you create a um, this is why whenever you go to any like restaurant or anything, or when you buy anything or whatever, like they have internal policies that state that you have to be given a receipt whenever there's a credit card transaction. The reason why is because the receipt in a credit card transaction is actually a certificate of deposit. The receipt is actually a promissory note where the bank is promising to pay you back the promissory note that you just manufactured.
Mm.
So basically everything is cash. So like if you get a parking ticket, the parking ticket's actually cash. It's like someone sticking 2 20s and a five underneath your windshield wiper. So that's pretty shocking. And you can write some stuff on the bill and you can send it back and it'll discharge the obligation. There's a bunch of different ways you can do that. You can discharge any bill. You can actually force the treasury to pay your bills for you. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing this. If you go into the IRS, if you go into the let's say you have IRS bill, the IRS is very clear how they want you to handle the situation. I can show it to you. So it's kind of like pretty shocking proof that this kind of stuff is really real, right? We're going to go to, where is it? It's going to be down here.
So has anybody been successful with this process?
Oh yeah. We we don't really consider it a process. We just consider it
Right.
the law. It's I don't really like the word process.
Right.
We're just following the law. And then if they don't follow the law, then we just sue them and force them to follow the law. There's not any we're not waiting for them to respond. We're not at the edge of our seats wondering what they're going to do. Like there's none of that. It's just,
Right.
are you going to follow the law, or are there going to be additional issues and damages associated with you not following the law? It's pretty much your choice how you want to roll with this, right? So this is the other flow chart. I'm looking for, here it is. 3.845.5 IRS 3.8.45.5.
So kind of like Nancy got you into this, and I don't remember if we covered it last time when we were talking, but I was with Nancy at a lot of events, and I'd kind of been in that crowd for a while. Kind of like she got to you and woke you up about this whole thing. Another guy at work got to me and woke me up about this in 2017. And he literally said that, I asked him, I'm like, how did you figure all this out? And he said his parents used to pay their bills with the process that you're about to explain. Um, they would his mom worked for the IRS, and I think his dad was an FBI agent. And he's like, yeah, that's how my parents paid their bills. It
Well,
was
they
just
would
common
send it.
knowledge.
Where would they send it to the Treasury?
I believe so. Yeah, they would take the bottom portion, and they would fill it out however they would fill it out and send it in, and the bill would get paid.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So this is straight from the Internal Revenue Manual. This is if you type in IRM 3.8.45.5.10.1 into the internet, you will find this area. Okay. And the definition of a bill of exchange, if you go into the negotiable instruments flowchart, negotiable instruments fall into two different categories, and it comes from UCC 3-104. You have an unconditional promise to pay, which is called a note, and then you have the unconditional order to pay, which is called a bill or bill of exchange or draft. So saying bill is the same as saying all the other terms. So unconditional order to pay is one term. Bill is the one that people usually say. That's another term. Bill is a shortening for bill of exchange. So we have bill of exchange. And then in the UCC, they call it a draft. They don't really use the term bill or bill of exchange, right? So all four of those terms mean the same thing, right? So when they say here, if a bill of exchange or registered bill of exchange is received from a taxpayer authorizing the campus to settle their account through Fedwire, send everything to the following address. And it's the Department of the Treasury Office of the Executive Secretary. And there's a special room, right? So if we type in Department of the Treasury room 3413, let's see if something comes up. I don't know. Here we go. Special Assistant to the Executive Secretary. His name is Paul Curry. Room 3413.
Interesting.
So Paul Curry is the one who's supposed to be getting these requests, right? So what is Fedwire? So, like I said earlier, if you look on the Federal Reserve discount window has their own website. Let's see. Federal Reserve discount window. This one here. So this is the rates for the discount, meaning like when they go to the window with your promissory note for your mortgage or whatever, and you get and they're going to swap it for Federal Reserve notes. They have the rates right here. You guys have heard that before, like Fed rates and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
That's what Fed rates means, is when they take that original note, that original promissory note, they take it to the window, what are the rates of exchange? Not like it matters because they're going to get the whole thing funded and then you're going to pay the whole thing again a second time. So not like it matters what the rates are really. They're like, oh my God, they freak out about the rates. The rates don't mean anything. It's kind of funny.
So people have tried to go into court and prove this, and they haven't had a lot of success yet. Is that something that you're gonna do? I know that you were doing that with the cars and stuff. Are you gonna try and start getting some mortgages taken care of?
Oh yeah, we've got a bunch on the slate already, and we've got a bunch that I'm working on the lawsuits for right now and stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've looked at a lot of those cases where people have tried doing this. They failed miserably. It's not just a. It's like almost every case I've ever seen where people go in and try to discharge these things. They're like 3% prepared for the lawsuit. People don't realize, like, even like the John Wayne Gacy case, when John Wayne Gacy killed all those kids and they found all the bodies underneath his house, they prepared for trial to prosecute John Wayne Gacy for a year. So people think that they can just put together two pieces of information in 10 minutes and they can file a lawsuit and then they lose and then they start yelling and screaming and saying that the court system is unfair and all this stuff. Whereas you've got prosecuting attorneys in Chicago spending a year to build a case to prosecute a guy where there's literally like 37 bodies. So it just goes to show you the amount of evidence and the amount of I also underestimated the amount of evidence and work that I would need to put into doing what I'm doing. So I'm actually kind of constantly going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out what did I miss and what else do I need to put together. Like, for example, what I'm studying right now, Joey Kimbrough, my right-hand man, he actually turned me on to this. The federal rules of evidence, right? And people don't realize that there's a whole rule book on how evidence works, right? And a lot of people talk about like presumptions and assumptions and stuff like that. And a lot of that information all comes from the rules of evidence, like um, presumptions in civil cases, right? So Rule 301 literally tells you different things about presumptions. I haven't even gotten into this too much, but this is kind of where I'm at with a lot of my research and kind of re refiguring out how I'm going to do some of these new lawsuits that are coming out soon, right? So presumptions governed by this rule are given the effect of placing upon the opposing party the burden of establishing the non-existence of the presumed fact. Once the party invoking the presumption establishes the basic facts giving rise to it, right? So a lot of this has to do with like shifting the responsibility of evidence and shifting the responsibility of having to prove various things and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff too that happens with people, and they kind of go into a lawsuit and they don't know the local rules, they don't know the federal rules for civil procedure. There's a whole book on that as well. So I have that here, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. So this is an entire rule book of all of the rules of civil procedure just on the federal level. So people think, again, they can just go in and just file a lawsuit and do whatever they want, and it's not going to get thrown out and that kind of thing. You have to go through and read all the rules. It's like reading the rule book, right? So you're going to read all these, or you're going to get a general idea of these, and then you also have the rules of evidence, which is something that I haven't really implemented yet, right? So just like any other skill, let's say you want to learn how to rebuild transmissions. Well, that's fucking complicated as shit. That's probably more complicated than this stuff, right? So if you're rebuilding transmissions, do you think you're going to learn how to do it effectively in a few months? Or is it going to
Nope.
take you maybe several months to a year or something like that to really get it down, and then maybe another 6 to 8 months to really kind of understand the various types of transmissions because there's so many of them, right? So this is no different. People look at all of this information and people look at all these rules and they get overwhelmed and they say, I could never do that. Well, this is not as complicated as having children. This is not as complicated as rebuilding a transmission. This is not as complicated as a lot of things. It is definitely one of the more complicated things in life for sure, but there's definitely a lot of other things that people do all the time that are more complicated. Okay. The human body is 10,000 times more complicated than the freaking law. Okay. So 12 USC 412 is called application for notes, right? And this is the rule book where it tells you how this works in pretty simple language, right? So any Federal Reserve Bank may make application to the Federal Reserve agent for such amount of the Federal Reserve notes herein provided as it may require. Such application may be accompanied with a tender. So tender means like unconditional offer. People say legal tender. Tender means unconditional offer. To extend your hand with a $20 bill and there's no conditions attached at all whatsoever. That's the legal definition of the word tender. Okay. So like if you say, I'll give you this $20 if you give me an invoice, technically speaking, there wouldn't be a tender. And that's how like breach of contract claims and stuff work, right? Like, did you really tender? Oh, well, Your Honor, I told him if he gave me an invoice, I'd give him the 20. Well, then there wasn't really a tender there. So there wouldn't have really been a breach of contract, right? So there's specifics as to how all this works that people don't understand the rabbit holes of all this, right? So such an application shall be accompanied with a tender to the local Federal Reserve agent of collateral in an amount equal to the sum of the Federal Reserve notes that's applied for. So what that means is if you want 200 grand, you have to bring us 200 grand in notes or bills or whatever, right? And it says here, the collateral security thus offered shall be notes, drafts, bills of exchange, or acceptances. So they're literally telling you, if you bring us other bills and notes, we'll swap them at the window for Federal Reserve notes, right? And then you ask, how does that swap take place? It takes place using what's called Fedwire. So when you sign a promissory note for a car, the dealership, the financial institution gets paid via Fedwire. Fedwire, the Federal Reserve sends the funds back to the financing company using Fedwire, and then the financing company wires the cash over to the car dealership, right? So now that you've looked at all that, now this is going to make more sense. If a bill of exchange or registered bill of exchange is received from a taxpayer authorizing the campus to settle their account using Fedwire. So what this means in English is, if you would like us to take your bill and swap the value of your bill on using Fedwire at the Federal Reserve discount window, just authorize us to do it and send that authorization to this address. That's basically it.
So how are people having such success with cars then? Um, I've followed some of the stuff that you've been putting out, and I see all the people that are having success with it. Is anybody getting them repoed, or are they coming back later and telling them, "Hey, we need you to come back down here and we need you to pay for this or give it back," or what's going on with the car situation?
We get a lot of mixed stuff. All the above, plus a lot of. We have people who call in and there's no account. They never even made an account for the person, so there's literally no account. Like their name is not even, sir, we don't have an account for you, like literally at all. So we hear good things, bad things, but really what I recommend and part of what I would call my process, it's not really a process. The value of the original note has a greater value than the vehicle itself because the value of the note includes all of the interest payments,
Mm,
right?
gotcha.
So what I tell people to do is that you need to follow up with the financial institution and you need to ensure that the additional value above and beyond the value of the vehicle that was part of the value of the original note is actually returned to you. So it's not just getting a free car, it's literally you're getting paid to take a free car, right? Now you give them 60 days to send back the additional value on the note. If they don't do it, you're going to sue them. And then as part of that suit, you're going to put a temporary stay order and you're going to have the judge sign a temporary stay order to legally prevent them from repossessing the vehicle during the proceedings of the lawsuit.
Brilliant.
So now in the lawsuit, you're going to get paid all the additional value of the note that you're entitled to. And then now, because they didn't perform, you're also going to be asking for damages as well. So again, like I said, a lot of people think that my platform is about getting free cars. No. And my platform is about a lot more than just cars. Cars is just something that has gotten my platform a lot of attention, a lot of attention, right? But I want to be clear, it's not getting free cars. It's getting paid to take free cars. Big difference, right? So people go, "Oh, Brandon, he's the free car guy." I'm not the free car guy. I'm the guy who teaches people and is trying to standardize the process of getting paid to take free cars. And then from there, it's going to be getting paid to take free land. And then from there, it's going to be getting paid to take free homes that are on land. And then from there, it's going to be getting paid to take planes and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the trajectory of where I'm trying to go with this.
So
Y-
basically, you're trying to make people understand they're the creditors
Correct.
and and yeah, reestablish that connection as being the ones with the actual authority.
Correct. Exactly.
Very cool.
So when you started this whole thing, even from 1.0, it seems like you kind of went down the same path that Nathan and I went down, where we focused on the state national stuff, on actually getting free from all the bullshit first.
Yeah.
And then once you're free from the bullshit, then you can venture out into the money part of it. So your course is kind of the first I've had to even look into the money part of it because I've done all the paperwork. I've done the UCCs. I've sent the affidavits. I've done the passports. All that stuff's done. So now that's why I'm really interested in. I'm glad we went down this avenue because I'm really interested in the lawsuit part of it. I
Yeah.
don't remember if we covered or talked about last time what happened to me, but I've got a federal lawsuit that I need to file against two BLM agents. Um, so the BLM agents, it's not Black Lives Matter,
It's
which
the
was
Bureau of Land
it's
Management.
Bureau of Land Management.
Yeah.
People get that messed up all the time, and they operate down in by Slowjamistan,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I drive by all the time. But Nathan, I just literally took Nathan down to Mexico. We were down for the Baja 1000, and we were coming back, and I was like, "Hey, there's Slowjamistan."
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see the fence and everything, man. It was great.
Yeah. You guys should come for an event. There's events usually at the near October, kind of near the end of the year. So
That'd be
Huh.
awesome.
yeah.
Every time I've driven by, there's nothing going on out there. And I asked somebody one time, and they said, "Oh yeah, they do all kinds of freaky shit out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's right up my alley."
Yeah. There's events. There's an event, usually in October. There's an event.
It was what, November when we went down there?
Yeah, yeah, it was mid-November.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
these two BLM agents, I was out in the sand dunes, and they woke me up in the middle of the night, banging on my camper door, and um, hey, you need to come out, and you need to, we need to talk to you, and literally, I walk out there, I'm barefoot. I'm thinking, okay, I won't need any shoes or anything. And they're like, he quoted some bullshit statute, and there's like six people in the whole desert, and he's like, unattended campfire. I looked at him like, are you out of your fucking mind? We're in the middle of the sand dunes. What's gonna burn? And it wasn't even a campfire at that point. It was a couple of red embers, and so they escalated that to a permit. Then they escalated that to firearms. And it was like, then I found out later after I'd done the administration process on these guys, and of course they never answer. They can't. Um, got them in default. The one agent was a trainee, so this whole thing was just to tune somebody up and teach a trainee how to do the same, just essentially how to fuck with people. So I've been this is over a year ago, and so when I got through, I think the first three or four of your courses, in part two, you had said that your goal is by the time this is over to have people suing people, and that's exactly where I'm going is with
Yeah.
that. So I can't wait to get through the rest of it. Like I said, I think I'm on 11 or 12 right now.
Litigation is the last module of the 2.0 course. You're about ready to move into the financial module, which we go through UCC Article 3 line by line, section by section through the whole entire article.
I just did that first one, so it was like 11 or 12, something like that.
Yeah, and then after those, that's when we start the litigation section.
Okay. And going through what you just showed us, you're right. A lot of people will not go into the lawsuit process because it's intimidating. If you don't know what you're doing, that's pretty intimidating. You're gonna have to go in there and talk to a judge and get in front of people and speak and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to that part of the course for
Yeah, the
sure.
reason why I'm so into it and the reason why I'm so invested in it, and the reason why I went in this direction is I just don't see any other option.
Hmm.
And I've been asking people every once in a while, someone will come along and they'll say, Brandon's full of shit and all this, and Brandon this and that, and the litigation, and the courts are all fucking, blah blah blah, devil worship, blah blah, and they go on this long. I'm just like, okay, what other options do we have? I mean, and they never have an answer. They don't have an answer. I don't think there is an option B. I think litigation is uncomfortable, but I don't. It's like being pregnant and saying birth is uncomfortable. Okay, uh, great. Sorry, I don't know. That's how it feels to me. It's like, okay, what there are none of the other options. So whining and crying about it isn't really going to get us anywhere. It's like there's a big fucking pile, there's a big ass mess outside. Like, oh man, this is going to be, boy, this really sucks. This mess really sucks. Well, what other options do we have besides just clean up the mess? There's a bunch of garbage bags exploded in the backyard. You're gonna go back there with a Miller High Life and sit down in a lawn chair and talk about how difficult it's gonna be to clean up the mess, or do you just go out there with another bag and bend over and pick up the cans? And I don't see any
Yeah.
other option. That's my point.
There is no
And,
other
and I,
option.
and I think if people thought of it that way, rather than complaining and moaning about it and then not doing anything about it, maybe you could complain and moan about it while you're doing it. I mean, I think it's like dad, out back cleaning up a fucking garbage bag that exploded. He's kind of like cursing the kids and all this, but what is he doing? He's doing it. He's cleaning it up. So it's sort of like, that's kind of how I look at it. I complain, I guess, every now and then, maybe a little bit. I pretty much enjoy the process, but the thing is that I just don't see any other option. And the thing is that when you become an excellent litigator, there's nothing you can't do. No one can mess with you. You can't do nothing. You can get anybody to do anything you want. It's pretty badass. It's like superhero level shit, like for real.
Mhm.
So I like to share that mentality with people, and I hope that my material gets a lot of people in that same frame of mind. It's not going to happen overnight. You're learning a professional skill, just like welding, just like rebuilding transmissions, just like selling. I spent 10 years in sales and marketing, you know. I didn't get really good until I was in for like probably, 10, 11, 12 years of like solid every single day. And then I started getting really fucking good at it. So, getting decently good at litigation in a couple of years is actually a fantastic time, actually, if you think about it. So, I'm only about a year into my litigation. I filed my first lawsuit in January of this year. So, people go online and you'll find things about me on Reddit and whatever about, Brandon, he's fucking losing lawsuits and all this. Well, yeah, it's like it's only been, 10, 11 months. These are my first lawsuits. It's if anyone
Right.
expects someone to have massive, it's like it reminds me of Matt Rife. You know Matt Rife, the comedian?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he talks a lot about on his shows and stuff. He talks about how he was like 10 and a half years deep on trying to make it as a comedian. And by about the 9 year mark, he like went through this time period where he like seriously thought about like giving up, like very, very seriously thought about it, right? And it's so funny because then a year and a half after that, he became like the biggest comedian of this generation. So it's just kind of funny, you just kind of never know. But the thing is, if you keep learning and you keep improving and you keep moving forward and you keep uh the way I look at it is you push forward and then there's a bunch of new things that kind of pop up and then you just kind of like start going down all those roads and then there's a bunch of new things that pop up and then you just start going down those roads. Like for example, the rules of evidence, it's not something I've really looked at before. So now I'm going to be looking into that a lot, case law and how to research old cases and dig through them and find things. I didn't really know how to do that up until recently. So that's something very new, and I've been doing a lot of that, and I've been implementing that into my cases. So, you start finding these things, and then you learn them, and then you implement them, and then now I'm going to be implementing. Now I'm going to be learning the rules of evidence, and then I'm going to be implementing that, and then there'll be something else, I'm sure. So, but eventually, eventually, you win something, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's I kind of like your analogy there because a lot of people tend to always criticize someone for they could do 10 things right and they do two things wrong, and it's the two things wrong that they criticize and that they start to use as the determination of how they're going to view that subject, that person, the individual, whatever it may be. And it's just crazy, and like you said, I think that's the exact perfect roadmap to success in anything, right? You just
Yeah.
keep going down those avenues, and then you have new avenues, and you might have to go back to the previous and go down another avenue. So I think that's some good information for a lot of people if you're um, not picking up that's basically what he's saying. So just wanted to
Yeah, I didn't
point
go to
that out.
school for this or anything. So, it takes someone, 5 or 6 years to get through school to become a lawyer, and then they come out of law school. And then I've talked to several lawyers with degrees, and they told me all seven of them or all six of them or whoever said, when I came out of law school, I didn't have a clue how to file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So, then now it's going to take them another 2 years to get their feet wet, and then they're also going to have to learn how to build their own office if they want to build their own office and all this kind of stuff. So, they usually work like a dog the first couple of years in apprenticeships or internships or whatever, paralegals essentially, or however you want to say it. I don't really know. But my point is, my road, I'm going to start winning cases probably for sure in 2025. I would say I'd be shocked if I don't win something in 2025. So, I'm going to be 2 years in, no formal education, nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, that's fantastic. So, you know,
Well, even attorneys are only taught statutes in law school. I mean, they're not taught constitutional law or any. That may be a lot of the reason you're running into roadblocks is because you're trying to do a constitutional case, and it's they're they don't want to go that route, even though the country's going that route right now, obviously, and the people like us, we know the difference. They're going that route. But this whole bar card thing, they're trying to save their ass because it looks to me like they're on the way out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't do constitutional stuff. I do a lot of statutory stuff too. I do kind of everything. My problem is procedural. It's the procedures in terms of like how motions work and how you're supposed to write it up. I mean, even type font in certain courts can be part of the procedure of how you're supposed to submit things. So it can become a bit tedious. That's sort of like a lot of the areas in which I struggle is the procedural part. Just because I find it overly complicated, tedious, and annoying. Not all of it, but just some of it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then yeah, the bar card thing. Yeah, I think people are waking up to the fact that this whole bar card thing is a bit odd and that they're not these wonderful suit wearing people that really care for all of us like people had thought. And the idea that someone can present themselves in court is also becoming much more prevalent. For example, um, 90% that I read something, it was like between 2016 and 2020, 90% of all pro se cases, meaning cases where the individual files a lawsuit by themselves with no lawyer, 90% of them were by people who were actively incarcerated. So only 10% of the overall pro se cases were by non-incarcerated people, just normal people like me and you, right?
Wow, that's heavy.
So it's like 7,700 cases between 2016 and 2020. That's all per year. Only 7,500 cases are filed by non-prisoner pro se litigants, right? So,
And there are
uh,
probably other attorneys.
And they could also be, yeah, they could also be, that's a correct, I never thought about that. Yeah, they could also be attorneys themselves, who of which are filing pro se on behalf of themselves. And it's not
Yeah.
even like, yeah, it's a good point. I didn't even think of that. So what I think would be a pretty powerful situation, pretty powerful shock to the system, and kind of a wonderful way to actually fix the problem is to get everyone in that category. No bar card, just you in there, following the rules, following the local rules of civil procedure, following the federal rules of civil procedure if you're in a federal case, learning the rules of evidence, and becoming a professional litigator, through the rules of litigation. It's like becoming a master of Monopoly. You read the rules, and then you're doing crazy shit in the game that people are like, that's bullshit, you can't do that. And then you just open the rule book and you say, no, it says I can do it right here. You say it's the same idea. It's the same idea, right? So um I'm having a blast with it. I'm having a lot of fun. So I think that, and I think what you said earlier is really important. It starts with your own personal stuff. Starts with your passport. Starts with your opening up private irrevocable foreign trusts. It starts with moving all your trusts, all your, getting rid of all your corporations, getting rid of your personal accounts, moving everything into trusts, getting the passport set up, ideally
Yes.
getting rid of your driver's license. There's a lot of things that you can do to set yourself up to be like very protected and very invulnerable, right? And I didn't get real cocky and start suing government agencies and stuff until I had all that stuff squared away myself. So I
Right.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's funny. It's funny you missed you talked about the driver's license there. I didn't have the option of giving the driver's license up like you did because I have a commercial license and I was working for a logistics company. So what I did, and this is only in California, I think Nathan tried to do it in Texas and they gave him some flack about it. But in California, I went back in to the DMV and my license was up for renewal anyways. So it wasn't like I had to redo anything, but I I renewed it with a new form and I checked no to US citizen. And then on the signature line, I thought this is where they were going to give me a bunch of shit. I signed and put a full reservation of rights on the signature line with a care of on the address as a non-US citizen, and they didn't give a shit. They could care less, So
Wow.
both the driver's license and the ID card are have been done now, non-US citizen and full reservation of rights. I haven't been pulled over in years um, because as a state national, we try to self-govern, and self-govern means stay out of trouble. Don't don't get pulled over. Don't be doing donuts in the middle of the street and causing problems. So I haven't really had to test that part of it, but it's done. And along with the passport, that was a big thing. It seemed like I was good at the passport. I did the passport three different times, and by the fourth time, I was able to do it without the social, and um,
Nice.
that's a big that's a huge uh, win when you can do it without the social and get that done. It takes 4 or 5 months to do it, and it's pretty much the same process that you went over. We all started. I think we all started at the Colonel. What's his
Copper
Yeah.
name?
moonshine stills.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Copper
copper
Moonshine Stills.
moonshine.
I
Yeah.
had him on my show. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Did you really?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. When did you do that? Because
Ah,
I've emailed him and talked to him, but I've never really
It
thought
took
about
me
getting him on the
like nine
show.
months to get him on the show, because he was doing some medical stuff and stuff. And then there was I finally got him on the show, and his microphone sounded awful. And I was like, oh, Colonel, I was like, is there any way you can do this or do that? He looks around and he goes, nope. And it was kind of like his reaction was sort of like, hey, take it or leave it, motherfucker. It was kind of like, So I shot the show. I tried to get the audio as best I could. It's pretty bad. It's not it could definitely be worse. On a scale from 1 to 10, it's like a 3, maybe a 3.5 for the audio. So what I did was I did a bunch of post production stuff. I never do any post production, but on this one I was like, I'm definitely doing some post production. So I tried to make it sound a little bit better, and then I manually went through the captions for the
Gotcha.
whole fucking show. So like
I know how rough that can be.
at the
Wow.
very end of the show, I was just so irritated and so hungry that I said fuck it. Like the last like 6 minutes is like not edited, but the whole rest of the whole thing, all the way to the very end, is all the captions were hand edited, and yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. It's pretty
I gotta
cool.
go watch that. I had
Yeah,
no idea because I've
yeah.
emailed him and talked to him, but I got this feeling like he just wasn't the type of guy that was going to jump on a YouTube podcast.
He's kind of not, but I think he enjoyed it, and he was around for all of the comments and stuff that came afterwards. So I think he liked it, but I don't think he's ever been on anybody's show except mine. I could be wrong, but yeah,
Yeah,
a
you
trip.
might have set the precedent
He's
now,
a
you
cool
know.
dude. Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's the OG, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got it.
yeah. I mean, everybody based their stuff off of his and just kind of built upon it. I know I personally had so the two BLM agents that I was telling you about. Once I gave them my passport because I refused to give them a driver's license. You know, they always want the driver's license. I pretty much told them to fuck off. I said, "Here's you're a federal agent. Here's a federal ID." Gave them the passport. And they went and ran it, and all of a sudden it was like they came running up to me and were like, "Hey, sorry for the inconvenience. Have a nice night," and fucking vanished. So
Yeah.
it works, you know, at some level on the back wherever they get their information from. It does work if you do it right.
Well, I learned more about this recently when I was building out these flowcharts. If you look at the area in the Department of State that issues the passports, it's the Bureau of Consular Affairs or something like that, right? So I kind of went down that rabbit hole and I kind of realized some things. What a passport is it's a consular identification card for basically identifying someone from the United States who represents the United States in a foreign land. It actually is a diplomatic card. And the thing is that they have these other types of passports called diplomatic passports, and they're black and they're only good for 5 years and they're different. But the thing is that the word consular, if you start going down that rabbit hole, it has typically so a consular has a consulate, and an ambassador has a embassy. And when you start going down the rabbit hole of how all this works, consular is more on the commercial end. It has to do with like doing business in or having commercial relations with a country. Consulates can be anywhere. I could have a consulate right here. I mean, technically, my apartment is actually listed as consulate, right? So consulates are easy, right? It's embassies are supposed to be in the capital of whatever country. So you wouldn't have an embassy. I mean, it's kind of a funny conversation because really there should be embassies in each state because each state is considered a separate nation outside of the whole
Right.
corporate
Right.
system, right?
Right.
Right.
But since no one knows that, everyone believes that, you know, the embassies are supposed to all be in Washington, D.C., which is hilarious because Washington, D.C. is the capital of United States, not the United States of America. So
Yeah.
the capital of uh, California would be Sacramento. So you would have a embassy in Sacramento. That's for the country called California. That's the way it should be. But it's not yet. If we keep going the way we're going, we'll see. But so basically, as far as I can tell, what the passport is, the normal one, the regular passport is a consulate identification, and the diplomatic one, the specialty passport you can get is diplomatic. That's a diplomatic passport, which would be on the embassy side, which would be on the ambassador side. And you start looking up a lot of information on diplomatic immunity. You can type into the internet guide to diplomatic immunity for law enforcement, and it'll pop up and it'll give you a PDF file from the Department of State. And it's a really pretty, it's almost like in brochure form. It's a really pretty a document that's very printable. And at the near the very end of that document, I can actually show it to you. I think it's a pretty cool document. It has a chart and guide to diplomatic immunity enforcement. You can see it's the first thing that comes up here. Diplomatic and consular immunity from the U.S. Department of State. Click on that, right? And this is the guide. And you can see it's not a lot of reading. There's a lot of like big gaps and pretty words and stuff. So it's just not really that much to read, actually. It's very little to read, actually. But if you go all the way down to the bottom of this thing, to Appendix C, this is like a really simple breakdown of the various types of immunity that they have. And you can see here you have international organizations, diplomatic, consular, and then I don't know what this is, TECRO, TICO. I would need to look into that a little bit more. But you have, can they be arrested or detained? And then can you enter their residence subject to ordinary procedures? And you'll see the diplomats have the highest level of protection. So an ambassador would be this category here, a diplomatic agent. No to arrested or detained, and no to enter residence subject to ordinary procedures, right? And if you go down, the no here has a subtext 1. So if we go down to the note here and look at what it says here, reasonable constraints, however, may be applied in emergency circumstances, including self-defense, public safety, or the prevention of serious criminal acts, right? So I believe now at this point in my research, I think what's happening is the normal passport is actually a consular identification card. And I think the special diplomatic passport is the diplomatic section. But all the protections that a consular has, you have from just a normal passport. The problem is that people think that the only time you ever need your passport is when you're traveling internationally. And then it gets even more complicated because if you travel internationally on a private jet, you don't need to use a passport. So why is that, right? So you also have the people are like, oh well, why do we need a passport to travel, and why you don't? The thing is, you actually don't. If you get yourself a private jet or rent a private jet, you don't need a passport. So there's also that too, right? Depending on the situation. But my point is, there's a whole rabbit hole on that too, right?
Right.
So consular. Can a consular be career consular officers? I don't know what that means. Career consular officers. Can they be arrested or detained? No, except in the case of a felony and pursuant to a warrant. So people think, oh, I have rights. You know, you can't arrest me. Well, if you present them with your passport, then yeah, you do have your rights. You know what I mean? It's right here, right?
Yep.
And then you have, can you enter their premises? Yes, subsection 4. So what's 4 say? Right. Note that consular residences are sometimes located within the official consular premises. In such cases, only the official office space is protected from police entry. So if you turn your apartment into a consulate, police can't enter it anymore legally, which is basically what I've done. I haven't fully informed everybody about the fact that my apartment's a consulate. I've done like a couple basic steps, but I plan on doing more with that this next year because we're going to be making our own passports and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I watched your State National show with State Nationals Rock, and they were talking about or you were talking about how Slowjamistan has their own passports, and that you were gonna start doing that here pretty
Right here.
soon. Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Nice.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Full reservation of rights, baby. In a pickle uniform.
That's right.
How does he do that, or how are you going to get that done?
He's actually gonna, well, I'm not gonna hold him to it, but he told me he would help me make mine. So I'm hoping he's still willing to do that. We haven't talked in a while. He wanted to get rolling. He's like, let's fucking go, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, dude, I can't do that yet. I need it until next year, please God. So, um, but we talked on the phone and we were working out the deets, and he told me he's like, yeah, it took me a long time to get everything together and to get the designs and get everything together, and I've got everything together now, so I can give you kind of like a whole turnkey operation. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna be looking more into that this year. I haven't even reached out to him yet. I'm kind of in the middle of just finishing that one flow chart, and then I have to. There's a lot of new discoveries that came out of it, so I have to go and do a ton of rewriting. I'm gonna rewrite like every document and like every website and like everything from based off that flow chart, because the flow charts that we've made recently have been pretty mind-blowing, and there's a lot of huge breakthroughs that have come through that, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, like I said, I'll probably get into that next year, I think, for sure.
I mean, that looks pretty legit. And I know that you had said on that State National Rocks show that some people have tried to use it for travel. Other people haven't. I don't know how much success they've had, but it looks like a pretty legit passport.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to make cards, just like the cards that you can get from the Department of State. I want to make cards too, because I want to have books and cards. So I want the card to look just like I can show you, let me share the screen again. If we go back to the consular immunity guide, right? They have pictures of the uh, license plates from the Department of State, and these are the same license plates that we make here. We actually just tell the we have an explanatory statement, and we literally just tell the Department of State right in the explanatory statement that we are going to be printing plates that look just like their plates, essentially.
So are these the DOT plates you're talking about that you talked about in one of the episodes, or is this your own plate separate from the
So
DOT?
it looks similar to theirs, but we were working with a company called Plate Speedy Signs, and you can go in there and you can kind of like design your own plate and stuff like that. We were using the Department of State seal, and the Department of State didn't like that. They issued a cease and desist order to Speedy Signs. So I
Hmm.
created my own Department of State symbol using my coat of arms, right? This is the one on the screen here. And then now, so these are the plates that we print up with that Department of State symbol.
So what kind of success have you had with that, with your own plates? Have you been pulled over? Have you,
No, 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 no. Most of the reports that we get, the cops won't come near you with a 50-foot pole unless you're doing something weird. Um, Not with these plates. You know, I had some other versions and stuff, and they didn't look that great. These ones look fucking fantastic, and they're very bright in person. They're really nice plates, man.
yeah,
Really, really nice plates. So yeah, I in my 2.0 course, I teach you how to get a foreign private motor carrier number for free from the Department of Transportation,
right.
and then you just plug that number here into this. This is a buddy of mine named Dave Errett, and he has a website here, and I've given him permission to use the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition Department of State seal. And all you do is just come on here, you pick which style you want. He has motorcycle plates too. He has car plates, motorcycle plates, all sorts of good stuff. You pick if you want this design or if you want this design. This is the one I recommend. And then you go down to it, just type in your DOT number 1234567, and then add to cart. It's that easy.
That's awesome. And he prints them out for you?
Yeah, you can do motorcycle and you can do vehicle, right? So there you go. And add to cart, and that's it. It's really simple, right? So, um, what I want to do is I want to make where was that thing at? Over here. So I want to make ID cards that look just like the ID cards they have here too.
Mhm.
We're gonna put the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition. It's gonna say, Nation of the Amnesty Coalition, Department of State, and then it's gonna have an identification card, something like this, or maybe we'll just do it just like the passport, American passport card. Maybe we'll make something that looks just like this, and um, it'll say this is the one like very much what I have. You have one of these too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So mine's going to be, the background is going to have it'll be different. I'll probably design some sort of background or something, and then it'll say, you know, Nation of the Amnesty Coalition passport card, and then it'll say nationality, whatever the nationality is for the person, surname, passport number, date of birth, given names, place of birth, issued on, expires on. So it's all the same information, and then it'll have the photo here, just like what he did with this. Because on this one you have surname, uh, given name, nationality, place of birth, birth, date of issue, endorsements. It's got all the same info on it.
So since you brought this up, one of your shows, I think it was like 4 or 5. It was the passport show. You started talking about the stars.
Yeah.
And for years now, I've told people that the stars are bullshit. They mean something, but they don't mean the 5-star passport. That rumor will not go away. It's like it just keeps popping up. I've got to the point where I won't even comment on some of the social media sites anymore. Um, and the closest thing that I could even get to figuring out what it was, because people have done FOIA requests on that, and they won't answer the FOIA request. But there was what was it? It was a Civil War era where there was 5 districts after the Civil War, and the stars represented one of those districts. And so I was born in Louisiana, so that Louisiana was District 3 after either 3 or 4 after the Civil War. And my passport, if I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think it's a 4-star passport. And so that lined up with that way of thinking that, okay, Louisiana was District 4, and I got 4 stars on my passport. Now I've done the passport 3, 4 different times until I finally got it right and was able to do it without the social. It had 4 stars before when it was just nothing, just doing it the regular way, and it's got 4 stars now.
Yeah.
So, and I've met people that have 5 stars that haven't done a fucking thing, that they don't even know what we're talking about when we're doing this stuff. So, have you learned anything else on what you think the stars are, or
No, I agree with you. I don't think it means what we used to think it meant. So I removed that in the 2.0 course. I talk about how I just really don't think that it means what we had previously thought that it meant. And also, uh, people talk about a 1 and a 2 star. For people who are actually doing these processes and getting their passports, I've never seen a 1 or a 2 star. It's always 3, 4, or 5.
yeah.
Yeah, mine is 3.
It's always 3, 4, or 5. So the thing is that people say, oh, it's 1 through 5 system. I don't think it is a 1 through 5 system. I've never seen a 1 or a 2. I've only seen 3s, 4s, and 5s. So you also have that. And then you also have the fact that I've had a million reports of intense police reaction, kind of like what you're talking about that you experienced when you whip that bad boy out for people who have 3-star passports. I've got so many fucking reports. It's just like that's kind of what broke my belief that the 4 and the 5-star is what you needed. I couldn't even tell you how many reports I've got of 3 stars being treated with the full diplomatic immunity you'll see with somebody who we used to think would only get 4 or 5 star treatment. So yeah, I don't. That's evidence. It doesn't. I mean, evidence trumps assumptions. you know. So that's evidence. I have reports out the fucking wazoo about that. So yeah, it just can't be true. It just can't be. It's impossible.
Can you remember one or two of those examples that we could give to people?
I mean, you can just go through my comment sections and stuff now at this point and just say, hey,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, there's videos that I've talked about. There's a guy, I forget his name. It's like Geowad, Awakened Healer or something like that. I forget his
Is that
name.
video 8?
Um, no, I don't think I put any of this stuff in my 2.0 course. But the thing is, you can find videos on this now. You can find a lot of stuff on this now, and you'll find videos where guys are giving passports out and then getting that treatment, and it's 3 stars. A lot of them are 3 stars.
Mhm.
Yeah, not denying it because I have had experiences myself. I just didn't know if you had anything that you remembered somebody specifically ta saying that was a huge thing where it's like obviously, I mean, I've had stuff at the border where they've left me alone at the airport. I had a Ohio State Patrol agent officer pull me over and I gave it to her and she came back and gave me a ticket, but said get on your way. Didn't ask me to sign or anything like that. And then I fought that later in court. So there's definitely things happening. I guess for my personal knowledge, I just wanted to see what other kind of stories were being told out there about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
So video 8, the traffic stop, the where you interviewed that guy.
yeah,
I watched that, dude, and I just cringed the whole way through. I felt like I was sitting there with him in the cab of that truck, and I couldn't believe that he didn't get yanked out the window. That they literally just gave him a ticket and told him to be on his way, and so things are changing out there. Things are definitely changing.
yeah. It's funny. The area where I get the most reports of people getting dragged out of their car is actually Texas and Florida. To
Yeah.
be to be honest with you, I don't think
Yeah.
the old boys don't play no games, And California, I mean, the cops, I mean, they don't do anything anywhere. I mean, I actually had a Thanksgiving dinner with a family who was a friend of mine, a friendsgiving kind of a thing on my end, and it was a bunch of cops there in the family, and they were like, "Oh man, we can't even get fucking recruits." Because the mayors blame us for everything, and then the people don't like us. So we get the shit end of the stick from both directions. Um, so yeah, it's a whole different world out here. Out here, you don't know. I think a lot of people don't realize what they might be missing when they go to some place like California where the cops really can't do anything with anybody really at all. You have stores getting robbed and nobody does anything. So it can go kind of in that direction too, and people don't think about that. And then you have places like Texas where I get a lot of reports of just smash that window and do whatever they're gonna
Yep.
do. You know what I mean?
They do.
So,
They do not give a shit.
but the thing is that the point I'm trying to make with all my work and everything that I'm doing is how do you do the stop in a certain way where you can kind of break that qualified immunity, and then how do you file like a 42 USC 1983 1985 lawsuit for breach of rights under color of law, and
241 and 242.
Yeah, but there's I sued using those, and you can't use Title 18 claims in a private right of action. Meaning, like, if you sue someone in a civil court for 18 USC 241 and 242, they'll tell you that those are criminal statutes that can only be used by the prosecutors, like the state prosecutors. There's certain Title 18 crimes and stuff that literally have sections inside them that like literally say that this can be used in a criminal in a civil action, and it has a private right of action. Like, for example, peonage and forced labor and enticement into slavery, and these are the ones, those have private right of action even though they're Title 18 claims. So
Mhm.
I was like, well, how the hell do I sue for these? So I found the civil side. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, but on the civil side, it's 42 USC 1983 and 42 USC 1985. So 18 USC 242 on the civil side is 42 USC 1983, and 18 USC 241 on the civil side is 42 USC 1985.
That's good to know. So if and when I go down that road,
You
I
wouldn't use
have
the
to
18. You wouldn't use the 18s. If you use the 18s, they'll throw them out.
the 241 and the 242.
You can't use them. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
But the civil ones are even better because if you go, I forget, 31 USC 1, I would need to check. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. I'm surprised I found this so fast. If we go to so this here is when you're filing a federal lawsuit. So 18 codes and 42s, all that's all federal. So you would file it in federal court, right?
Mm.
So this is the jurisdiction section, 28 USC chapter 85. And I remember seeing this. If you go down, there is actually a special jurisdiction for 42 USC 1985 claims. Let's see here. I remember seeing like a special, if you look through here, these are all the different jurisdictional rules in terms of how you get jurisdiction, right? Like this is the one that people use most often, federal question, right? Um, the district court shall have original jurisdiction of all civil actions arising under the Constitution, laws, or treaties of the United States, right? And I'm trying to see here. There's one that I found where they talk about how federal courts actually have what's called um, extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is a really interesting type of jurisdiction when you have a 42 USC 1985 claim, which is the same as a 241 claim. It's the conspiracy. It's the conspiracy claim.
Right.
I'm not seeing it here rapidly. I would need to dig through all these again, but let's see. Pretty fascinating. It's pretty fascinating. So the 42 USC 1985, in my opinion, is even better than 18 USC 241 anyways. So the way 18 USC 241 would work is if they were doing a criminal charges, they would use 18 USC 241, and then civil charges would be the 42 USC 1985.
So we can't use those because
No.
we're not attorneys.
And what's cool is that no, it's not. It would need to be a state prosecutor. It's like the 18 code 8 Title 18 is like pretty much only for like state prosecutors or federal prosecutors. It's for the government to use in criminal usages. It's not for civil. Civil is like financial damages, right? So there's also another one, 42 USC 1986, which is pretty cool. So 1986 is basically where if there was conspiracy to deprive you of your rights under color of law. So basically, if there was a 241 charge and there was anybody else that knew about it that could have done something to stop it from occurring, they become accomplices in the conspiracy charge, the 1985 charge. So the 42 stuff is actually better than the 18s in a lot of ways too. So I mean, you can't use the 18s in civil court anyway. So
The penalties seemed really low when I looked at the penalties for the 241 and 242 um, claims as well, and that's the one that does list jail time for them.
yeah,
So
that's on the criminal end. If you go to 42 USC 1985, it says, let's see here. I would need to read through all this. This is longer than I remember. Um, but yeah, it's all here. I mean, you can ask for whatever you want. That's kind of the whole point of a civil court. I mean,
but
you
you've
put
already gone through that, and they tossed it out.
no, I didn't do a civil rights. I did almost all my stuff is all involving negotiable instruments.
Gotcha.
So that's basically everything I've done is negotiable instruments. I haven't done anything outside of negotiable instruments at all. And I don't really plan on it. I mean, if I need to, I can. I'm willing to, but I'm gonna be suing Amex and all three of the credit reporting agencies for putting negative reports on my credit score. So with that, that's kind of a little bit outside of negotiable instruments. I mean, it's involving the subject of negotiable instruments, but it's a reporting situation specifically. So that's going to be like discrimination. That's going to be like defamation, discrimination, a bunch of other stuff. So that'll be the first one that I do. It's a little bit different, but I'm pretty much just sticking with negotiable instruments is really all I really care about with any of my litigation stuff. So
When I dipped my toe into that side of it, um, I and found out that the fraud behind the money. I had all my credit cards and everything. I sent them validation letters, and they instantly closed the accounts.
yeah.
And then after that, they reported it to the credit agencies and sold it off to third-party debt collectors, which all they do is so far is just send letters. One of them tried to sue me, and an interesting trick that you had talked about on that State National Rocks podcast too was what's his name? Alphonse's work. And one of the thing Alphonse teaches is to bar grieve these attorneys. So I started doing that. The first lawsuit, it was only like $4,000. They were going to try and sue me for like $4,000, and so I sent them a package to get debt validated, and then I went and bar grieved all the attorneys on the list, and they vanished. They were gone. Didn't want anything to do with me after that. So when you talk about going on offense, it does work. You once you start playing offense, they tend to leave you alone.
Yeah, and I don't really think people should be I think you as soon as they close your accounts, as soon as any of that stuff starts happening, boom, you file litigation immediately. I mean, there's no and then if they transfer the account, if they sell the account, what you're going to do is you're going to file a motion for leave to amend. What that means is that you're going to be adding in additional charges. So you
Okay.
file an motion for leave to amend, and then the judge will approve that typically, especially if there's new things that need to get added, and you just add more shit into the case. And then they do more stupid shit. You file a motion for leave to amend. You get all that evidence, you plug all that in, all new charges, everything, and you just keep building that case bigger and nastier and gnarlier. But you file that motherfucker right away. I mean, you get that thing popping at the beginning, And then if they do anything, it just all rolls into the case. That's how I think people should do it. I don't think, because the thing is that just because someone's not fucking with you anymore doesn't mean they're not going to turn around and start fucking with 10,000 other people and screwing with old elderly ladies and
Right.
fucking over old elderly ladies that are retired and they don't have a lot of family nearby. And it's like you hear a lot of this kind of elder abuse type stuff and all that. It's like it's like I think of it kind of like in the old days, 100 years ago or whatever, where if there was a local bully, all you got to do is just pop him real good one time, and typically that sets people straight. Um, I think that's kind of like what we need to be doing with a lot of this stuff. And the thing is that you're getting your accounts closed. There's damages associated with that. That's not cool. You made a payment or you were asking for information legally and they closed your accounts. That'd be breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duties. Why are they doing that? What right do they have to do that? You want to drag them through discovery, find out what emails were they sending internally about you? Were they calling you a sovereign citizen? Was there discrimination occurring? The cool thing about moving a case in discovery, which I haven't had the pleasure to do yet, that's going to be like my wet dream. Um, I call it's like the court issuing you a gun, a badge, and a shovel. You can subpoena anyone you want. You can request records. You can do depositions, which means that you put a light on their face and you can video record them and ask them questions for like up to 8 hours in a federal case. So depositions and stuff like that, it's like, no, I don't want to tell an attorney, I don't want to do a bar grievance. I want to drag the attorney through the mud for like 4 years. And I want to be his complete personal nightmare. Like when he goes to sleep and he wakes up in like shivering nightmare and he's like sweating and like he's screaming and his wife rolls over and it's like, honey, what's going on? Like I want to be that guy in his mind.
I'm right there with you.
So that's kind of why I think um, people need to start taking this whole litigation thing very seriously and think of it more as a profession, not just a tool. Because the truth is, I don't care what you do. I made a lot of money in marketing and sales, man. I had businesses, I ran businesses. I'll tell you right now, you can make a whole lot more money doing litigation. Unless you're fucking some big tycoon and you've got, 5,000 rental properties, I guarantee you, whatever the fuck it is that you do, you can make more money doing this.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. No, I agree. And a lot of it probably won't even go to court. They'll just want you to disappear because they don't want it on record that you beat them.
yeah, I
Like
haven't gone that far, but yeah, I'm sure there's going to be, I mean, I've looked at a whole bunch of settlement agreements and what's funny is they all look the same. They're just copy paste. I don't even think most attorneys even know what the fuck they're doing, bro. Honestly, I think they just copy paste shit or they go on Rocket Lawyer and they say, give me a settlement agreement and they adjust a few of the words and plug your name in and then they just send it to you.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I agree.
So what else can you tell us about the course? Because like I said, I'm only like 12 videos in and every day when I'm going to work. That's another thing I'm trying to get out of the JOB. I've had some changes lately and I'm trying to start my own thing now. So
there you go. That's great. Yeah, the free contract killer course is available at onestupidfuck.com and it has 4 different modules. I guess you can call them. I don't really call them that in the course, but the first one is nationality, citizenship, and taxation, which some of that stuff is kind of changing right now. So be sure to, there's going to be a new video released probably in the next week or so, and it's going to have all the updated information as to how some of those things are going to be changed and adjusting. So be sure to watch out for that or just watch all the way to the end of the course before going too wild. It's not really going to hurt anything. You might just waste some of your time, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. The second module is the driving, traveling, and it also gets into titles. It gets into ownership, trusts. You have to kind of understand trusts and titles to understand how the certificate of title works when it comes to your vehicles, and then how that works commercially and kind of all that stuff. So that's kind of all tied in with the driving, traveling. It's like ownership, title, security interests, trusts, and then driving, traveling, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of the second module. The third module is negotiable instruments. We go through the entire Bible of negotiable instruments, which is the Uniform Commercial Code Article 3. We go through all 6 subparts, and we go through each subsection of each subpart. So it's 6 videos, 1 video for each section of UCC 3. So then after that, we start getting into litigation. And then litigation is probably 6 or 7 or 8 videos long, and then that's it. And then there's one post-course video with a bunch of updates and stuff. I think that's the flowchart video for the negotiable instruments. And then this second update video is going to be a whole bunch of other updates and stuff for that second flowchart.
I did watch
Very cool.
a course, not a course, but a video in between those videos of a guy you interviewed. I think it was out here in San Bernardino, who sent something out to the credit card companies, and I thought it was like 4,000 or 5,000, but then I think when we dove into it, it was only about $1,100 that he got wiped off his credit card, and they left it open.
Yeah, I think it was like 2,500 or $3,000 or 3,500 or something like that. But then I think like the next month it didn't work or something. But I think like for 1 month, I think he got it wiped off. I hear about that sometimes where people will send some stuff in and it'll get wiped and they won't close the account. And then shortly after that, they'll something else will happen and then they'll close the accounts or whatever. So you just never know. But I would say the percentage chance that you're going to get anywhere without using litigation is like 1%, probably. Maybe.
You got to force them. Yeah,
You're basically. I mean, you got better odds in Vegas, honestly. You gotta litigate and you gotta be aggressive. Can you get rid of IRS bills really easily? Yes. Can you get rid of medical bills, hospital bills really easily? Yes. Can you get rid of student loans? That would be a great place to test a lot of this stuff out because you got nothing to lose. There's like no leverage over you. Student loans would be a great place to test out some litigation. It'd be a great, if anybody has student loans and they want to get into this or they want to look more into this, I would say student loans is the most fantastic place to begin litigation. Because even if you fuck everything up and lose miserably, it doesn't change anything. They're not going to come and take anything from you. You know what I mean? IRS is super easy. Medical bills are super easy. A collection debt from collection companies. Those are typically really easy. You can send in the bill of exchange endorsed, and I see those actually quite often get accepted. It's credit cards, mortgages, loans, business loans, car loans. That's where I'm talking about this 1% success rate.
The big ones.
IRS is super easy. IRS is like 100% success rate. Medical bills, I mean, I have never really dove into it too much, but just from like the reports, random reports and stuff, it's very high, very, very high percentage, very easy to do. Collections companies coming after you for collections. That's also seems like a very high percentage of acceptance. That's it. Those are the only areas of where it's easy. For example, the FTB in California, which is state tax, I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to be not. I think there's maybe a 50-50 chance that they would do something with you send something in. I think there's a little bit of a better chance with something like the FTB, but I would definitely just plan for litigation.
Um, Nathan, you got a roll?
Yeah, I gotta hop off here, man. You guys are, welcome to continue. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I gotta take care of some stuff. It's a little later out this way, so
Brandon, if you have a few minutes, I would love to talk to you about the FTB
Sure,
and
yeah, I can stay on it for a little bit longer.
a couple other things.
See you, Nathan. Thank you for joining us.
yeah, yeah. Thanks, guys, and you guys have a good day.
You
All
too,
right,
man.
thanks, Nathan.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So since we're both in California, and I've had a job, I've had side businesses and stuff too, but it seems a lot harder with a job. The IRS, they've gone away. They don't. You send them the paperwork and they just kind of vanish. And every once in a while they'll send you a. I changed positions here lately, and I had to fill out a new W-2, and they sent me a letter that said, "Hey, you filled out the W-2 wrong. You need to redo it." And it's like they just send them the paperwork again. But the franchise tax board has been a fucking nightmare, bro. They um they are relentless. They are worse than the IRS. And I talked to a Freedom Law School guy. His name's Paymon out of Florida, and he said that's California is the only state where they just recommend just paying them because it's just mafia out here. So, have you had any success, or how are you dealing with the franchise tax board when it comes to people that aren't working for themselves these days?
Um, I would just learn the basics of negotiable instruments. So like by the time you get to the end of my course and you do the first post-course video about the flow chart, I cover that whole flow chart in like a lot of detail. And by then you've already gone through the 6 parts of UCC3. So like by the time we go through the flow chart, like you're going to totally get it. It's going to be easy for you. Um, at that point, what you're going to do is you're going to call the FTB and you're going to request a bill, right? Because a bill is an unconditional order to pay, right? You're going to get that bill. You're going to endorse the bill, and then you're going to put a little cover letter on the bill, and you're basically going to say, see payment enclosed, see qualified or special endorsed or blank endorsed instrument enclosed. Please process this payment in accordance with UCC 3-311, but you're not going to say UCC 3-311. You're going to say the California Commercial Code version of that, right? Because the UCC is not a law; it's a model code, and then the states turn that model code into law at the state level. So it's actually called the CCC, the California Commercial Code, and it's an exact duplication of the UCC. So it wouldn't be UCC 3-311. It would be like California Commercial Code Division 3, Section 5, subsection 3-311. It's the same thing. It's just you just say it a little differently, right?
Gotcha.
And then what happens is now you can even put on there, like I'm giving you guys 30 days to process this under UCC 3-311. And if they don't, you're going to sue them for breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duties, fraud, unjust enrichment, and then you're also going to sue for failure to perform under UCC 3-311. Because 3-311 says that when they receive a payment, they have to either dishonor or process the payment. And if they don't dishonor, there's a thing called rules of dishonor, which is in UCC 3-502. The rules of dishonor are very explicit. There's only specific ways they can dishonor the instrument. And I've never once ever seen anybody dishonor an instrument. They don't dishonor the instrument, they just ignore it or refuse it. And if you look at, I can show you, if you look at UCC 3-603 subsection B, it's very clear about what happens when you send in a payment, which an endorsed bill of exchange is a payment by definition. What occurs if they refuse to that tender. Tender means unconditional offer. Payment actually doesn't mean what you think it means. People think that means to send in Federal Reserve notes. Federal Reserve notes is just one type of promissory note. So you can send in any negotiable instrument you want. You can even look in your card member agreement for your credit cards, and it'll say right in there how to pay or what can I use to pay, and they'll say negotiable instruments or a single negotiable instrument. You'll even see information in your card member agreement about special endorsements, and they'll have like a whole different address. They're like, if you're going to do any special endorsements or anything on the instrument, please send those instruments to this address, and it's a totally separate payment address. Right.
Gotcha.
So look at be sure to read whatever they send you. And if they have any sort of language like that anywhere in the fine print, be sure to send the instrument to the correct location. But you have here, if tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument and the tender is refused, there is discharge to the extent of the amount of the tender. So if they send you a bill for $600 and you send back the bill endorsed with a cover letter to process under 3-301, this also applies. So even if they refuse it, $600 still has to come off the bill regardless, even if they refuse the tender of payment.
Gotcha.
So they can refuse it if they want, but it's irrelevant. It means nothing to you. Like, why are you even letting me know that you're refusing the payment? It's irrelevant. Because if you refuse the payment, it still discharges my entire obligation, and now I don't have an obligation. So why are you even telling me that you're refusing the obligation? That's basically harassment at that point. I would sue them for harassment. Because the thing is that why are you telling me? It's irrelevant. Why are you wasting my time? If you refuse the payment, then we're done here.
Yeah, because I've run into people who have actually sued the franchise tax board over income taxes and won, but the case just vanishes. They don't want anyone out there to know about it, so it's hard to get any information about those cases.
Yeah, I think the way I just described it is the simplest. The complaint can be really, really short. The amount of time that you're going to spend to actually do the processes is going to be nothing. You're going to write some shit on the bill, very, very simple, 2-3 paragraph cover letter, 1 page. You're going to send it registered mail. They're going to sign for it. You're going to get the green card back. That's going to take you, 15 minutes and $30 because registered mail is really expensive.
Yeah.
They're going to fuck around, and then you're going to file the lawsuit in state court, and it's going to be a California commercial claim case. And then it's going to be, they received the payment and they did not process or dishonor the payment. And then they didn't discharge the payment. They refused the payment, which means they discharged it, but then they didn't follow the rules of the UCC. They didn't follow the rules of the CCC, because once they refused that payment, there should have been a discharge, and there wasn't a discharge, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you can actually sue them for things like peonage and stuff too, because the thing is that if you make a payment and they continue to harass you to make a payment, that's essentially peonage, which is its own separate statute. So you can sue for peonage, you can sue for fraud, you can sue for breach of contract, you can sue for unjust enrichment, you can sue for, all sorts of things. You can do whatever you want. But really, it's very simple. I mean, if you wanted to keep it super simple, you would just sue for failure to dishonor or apply the payment. That's really, if you want to go the simplest route. And the entire lawsuit is going to be like a page or like a page and a half.
Yeah. Do you think it'll ever make it into court, or will they just try to settle out and get rid of you?
I don't know. I've never seen anybody do it. I just know that that's what I would do, and that's what makes the most sense to me. There's no huge, massive, long constitutional argument. You were sent a bill of exchange. You performed on the bill of exchange, which is by definition a payment. You sent that payment back. Once they receive that payment, they have 2 choices as per the law. They can either apply that as a payment or they could dishonor the instrument. If they decide they want to dishonor the instrument, they can only dishonor the instrument as per the rules of dishonor from UCC 3-502, which no one knows any of that information and no one ever does that ever. So they're not going to do that. So if they refuse it and it's not dishonored, then 3-603B, then discharge takes place. So you're done. Any way you look at it, it's over. It's done. Plus, another thing that you can do, which you've probably already seen this in the course, but you're going to see a lot more of it as we go through the course. You're going to use a qualified endorsement on the instrument. It's going to say without recourse.
Yes.
So without recourse, when you write that on the instrument, without recourse is a phrase meaning that one party has no legal claim against another party. In financial transactions, without recourse disclaims any liability to the subsequent holder of a financial instrument. So thus endorsing a check and adding without recourse to the signature means that the endorser takes no responsibility if the check bounces for insufficient funds. So when you use without recourse, by the time they get the instrument delivered to them registered mail, you've already said, that said, I wash my hands of this. I have no responsibility for this any longer. Don't call me. So the thing is that if they called you after having received the instrument endorsed without recourse, that would also be harassment. It's irrelevant. If you don't put without recourse on there, then you're not expressing that. But if you put without recourse on there, you're expressing that that's it. You don't have any liability. You don't even have if you sent in a check without recourse, you could send the FTB a check without recourse for the full amount. When they process it, if it bounces, then they still can't come after you, because when they process that payment, they agreed to basically that the debt was without recourse. So without recourse literally says in there that even if the check bounces, you still you have no liability for the debt at all whatsoever.
Yeah, I put that on a lot of things. That's usually part of my reservation of rights. I think I
No,
got
you're
that.
thinking of without prejudice.
That too. Yeah, without
So without
prejudice.
prejudice is a reservation of rights. Without recourse is typically performance based or financial based.
Mhm. What another thing? There's something else I put on the reservation of rights. I don't remember what it is right now.
UCC 1-308.
I put that on there because I have a UCC, and but when other people ask me about that, I usually recommend they don't put that on there, just because if you haven't filed a UCC, you don't want to have to answer for that or um, have to understand it or protect it.
Well,
So,
no, UCC 1-308 is the section in the UCC Article 1 that talks about the reservation of rights, the without prejudice. So if you
hmm.
go to, oh, whoops, sorry, hold on one second. If you go to, let me see this here. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second.
Oh, non-assumpsit is another thing that I put on the full reservation of rights. Sometimes it means no contract.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me find this. So if we do UCC 1-308. This is UCC 1-308. A party that, with explicit reservation of rights, performs or promises performance or assents to performance in a manner demanded or offered by the other party, does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved. Such words as without prejudice, under protest, or the like are sufficient.
Hmm.
That's where the whole without prejudice thing comes from.
Gotcha.
And then without recourse is something completely different. Without recourse is a type of endorsement. It's called a qualified endorsement. If we type in qualified endorsement, it'll pop right up. And it'll say a qualified endorsement is a signature on a negotiable instrument that transfers ownership of the instrument to another party while limiting the liability of the signer. The endorser or signer is transferring their rights in the instrument, but they are not guaranteeing that the instrument will be honored by the payor. To create a qualified endorsement, the signer adds a phrase to their signature, such as without recourse.
Oh, okay.
Without recourse means, haha, fuck you. That's it. Once you sign for this, once you sign for this parcel, that's it. That is the end of the story.
Wow, that is awesome. All right, brother. I think we've gone almost 2 hours now. So, where can people find you? I'll get all this up and put your links in the description.
Yeah. You guys can find me at the greatest website in the world. It's onestupidfuck.com.
Nice. Um, so I see your Amnesty of the Coalition flag behind you. What did you do with the state national flag? You still got that one?
Yeah, it's upstairs. This is the primary flag that I'm doing nowadays. It's a little bit because I have my own nation now, so it's sort of like, I'm an ambassador at large for that nation. So, and then I have a passport explanatory statement, kind of like what you have and stuff, but it specifically creates a relationship between the nation of the Amnesty Coalition and the U.S. Department of State. So that's kind of the direction I'm heading. I'm headed more towards the manufacturing of your own state or nation, and then
Hmm.
you would be a state national of that particular newly created state or nation rather than, so I'm sort of like have been going down that road a lot too.
So let me ask you this, because obviously, your own nation's not a corporation. It's not an LLC or anything like that. Did you follow the kind of what Jamistan did, or how did you do it? How did you make your own nation?
Well, the definition of a nation is just a group of individuals operating together with peace and tranquility and that kind of thing. So you don't need land or a physical location to have your own nation. You just simply have to be at peace. And then the definition of the word peace, the legal definition, is pretty fascinating. It has to do with the legal definition is like there's actually like actual action associated with it, meaning like, you kind of reach out and help other people, and it's like an active thing. It's not a passive thing. Like doing nothing and not hurting anyone and not helping anyone is not actually the definition of peace. The definition of peace is like active diplomatic actions and activities.
Hmm.
So as long as you meet all of those categories and understand all those definitions, you just kind of say you have a nation, and then poof, you have one. It's not even really like a thing, right? So um, once you understand all that, then you have a nation, and then from there you can do what you want with your nation. A really good example of a nation that's been around for a long time that has passports and it's internationally recognized and it doesn't have any land or anything is the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. You ever seen that before?
I heard of Malta, but not the Sovereign Order of the Military of Malta.
Yeah, so you just go to Sovereign Military Order of Malta. And they have a website. It is orderofmalta.int. And this is their website. And they have no land. They have no land. They have no physical location. They have a headquarters, but they have no land. They have no physical location. They've been around for a long time. I think 900 plus years. And they are a completely internationally renowned nation. And it's a pretty fascinating it's pretty fascinating when you look into this, how, it basically kind of blows the whole thing open for you, because a lot of people are like, well, I can't have a nation because I can't afford land. Well, the thing is that, that didn't make sense to me, that someone would need land in order to have a nation. So I went down this whole rabbit hole, and yeah, sure enough, you don't. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, and it reminds me a lot of like Scotland. Scotland, they have like coat of arms for like family names,
Right.
and that's literally the nation of Williams. It's literally, this is how things used to be. It was like a family unit would be essentially a nation, right? So um, the international laws in terms of how nations and stuff function and how they relate with one another and stuff like that really has never changed. It's very old. It's very, very old information, right? So the idea that any individual nation can prevent another nation from taking place is silly. And even in America, if you go on to, I can do another screen share and show you. If you go on to the Department of the Interior website, whoops, hold on one second. Department of the Interior website. Let's see here. There we go. And then we go to About, and then we go to Interior. You can see here what we do. The Department of the Interior plays a central role in how the United States stewards its public lands, increases environmental protections, pursues environmental justice, and honors our nation-to-nation relationship with tribes.
The tribes, yeah.
So if you start going down this rabbit hole, it's pretty fascinating. Basically, like, cops and stuff can't go into a tribal nation's land, and the tribal nations have their own police forces. So the cops can go right up to the tribal land. They can inform the tribal police of something they need, but then the tribal police has to be the one to actually go in there and get it done, right? And a lot of tribes have their own license plates and stuff. You can see that in Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Oklahoma is like 50% tribes. Um, and ironically, also the entire state of Oklahoma is bright red on the voter. Did you see that? The whole state,
Yeah.
from every inch of the whole state is completely red when it comes to voting. I thought that was kind of funny. But nation to nation relationship. So the Department of the Interior is literally telling you that there are nations inside of our nation.
It's funny because I worked with the tribes from 2003 to 2010. Um, I worked at Kauai, and then I worked at Pachanga down here in Southern California. And so I've found myself back with the nations right now. And I always wondered how why they had to ask permission to get gaming licenses and everything else from the state. And then it hit me. It's because they're doing business with the corporation. And if you're doing business with the corporation and you have the public visiting your casino, you have to have you can't buy liquor, you can't buy smokes, you can't buy anything unless the tribe actually makes it. So it's I'm starting to see a lot of tribal companies pop up that are doing their own thing. They're doing their own energy drinks. They're doing their own water. They're doing their own beer, stuff like that. So yeah, the tribes are gaining a lot of uh, power. I mean, they did that right after they became gaming tribes, and they're gaining a lot of power in the state of California and others. I have family in Oklahoma too, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That yeah, most of that state is. And if you listen to I know you had mentioned David Straight on that last podcast too. Um, he talks about Oklahoma getting most of its land back. I haven't really dove into that, but apparently they were able to get a lot of the land back that was stolen from them. So
Yeah, that it doesn't the complicated part of it is that these tribes are federally registering. That's the problem.
Hmm.
If the tribes don't federally register, then they'll never get any of their shit stolen. It's the federal registration that is basically like them donating the land essentially. They just don't realize that it's kind of like not clear in the if you have a tribal land rather than creating a corporation for a casino, you just create like a private foreign trust, and then now you don't need gaming licenses and liquor licenses and all this stuff. It's totally irrelevant.
Yeah, the trust that I did, I got a 98 number on it, and nobody ever gave me any hassle over it.
Yeah.
It's a foreign trust, and that's how I treat it. I have a bank account with it, and it was one of the things I did early on in this journey, and I was actually terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I got to call and talk to somebody and get a fucking number. And it was easy.
Yeah.
It took about 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, here's your number.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
So, all right, my friend, I got to run too as well, but I think we did a good shit, 2 hours. So, were you recording too?
No.
Okay, then I'll get this edited and I'll send it over to you so you can get a copy of it too, and we'll get it up.
That'd be great, man. I'd love to put it on my YouTube. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. It was awesome talking to you. Hopefully we can do it again.
Hell
I'm
yeah,
gonna
man.
I'm gonna get through the rest of these. Like I said, I think I'm on 12 or 13, and just absorbing the information is incredible. Just the amount of information you're putting out is incredible.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, it's good
So
stuff.
so yeah. All right, my friend. I will hopefully talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks, Brandon. We'll see you.